TikTok, it's time to rock. It's the Sunday show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with the three of us, the three of them, or the three of those guys, whatever you want to call us. It's the threes. The threes. No, I'm not going to say that word. I'm not going to say, Brad, I know what you're thinking. We're just three dudes. There's no sim.
The three amigos. Tres hombres.
Yeah, that's it. Let's say that. Three amigos.
Three musketeers. All right, we can stop that now.
All right. Just because we're the 5150 hub doesn't mean people need to start making all these kind of weird connections.
5150 hub. Love it. Look at us. We haven't got a channel. We've got a hub.
Well, if that's not clickbait, I don't know what is.
No, well, I do.
Oh my lord!
Morning, Derek. Thank you so much.
back to work. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ranking the Tracks episode here every Sunday. In our part of the world anyway. It's always a pleasure to have anybody join us live, and Brad and Simon, it's always a pleasure to have people come and watch us on a replay, isn't it?
100%.
It is.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Please subscribe.
Yeah, means a lot to us. And all subs obviously get a sub back. Guys, got some sad news today in our social media feeds. I got a message from a very dear friend of ours, Alan Garber, on Messenger, alerting me to the passing of Peter Brown, otherwise known as Pete Brown, the lyricist, the great poet, Brad and Simon, who contributed these wonderful, wonderful words to some of these great rock songs that we hold dear to our existence, Simon, Brad.
Yeah,
indeed.
Very sad. Yes,
Pete Brown and his battered ornaments.
Yes,
which is a fantastic name for a band.
Some of the amazing lyrics that he's written, they're classics, timeless. Yeah. Timeless lyrics. Yeah,
like lots of Cream numbers. I Feel Free, White Room, Sunshine of Your Love. Thanks to name but a few. Yeah, fantastic. Amazing guy.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Pete. Thank you for obviously his connection and his relationship to that band. It's interesting, isn't it, when you go and watch the making of the Disraeli Gears and you see him, and they've included him in his comments and his experiences of being part of that whole package. It kind of blew me away.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool to include him, stuff in it. Yeah.
Very cool to include, and also very important because some of those lyrics are timeless. Like I said before, White Room, for example. What were they writing about? I mean, it's so colourful. The lyrical content, it's amazing.
Sunshine of Your Love. It's getting near dark. When lights close their tired eyes. Wow, who thinks of that? Wonderful.
Lights close their tired eyes. You see? Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, it's a whole different world and a whole different viewpoint than the stuff you get now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brad, you and I, we've been busy this week, bro. You and I, we've been carrying the Rock Professor, bro.
Yeah. We did a midweek show. For anyone who doesn't know, please go back and check it if you haven't already. Just a little. We reconvened after our viewing of Across 24 Nights, which was, I think the three of us now have seen it, and we're all in conclusion that it was amazing. And this morning we had Art Menenzies on the show, and despite the technical difficulties we had, we got through it, and it was a great show, Andrew. Despite those technical difficulties, we got some fantastic, information there. There's a lot of nuggets there for any guitarist that's up and coming, that doesn't know how to present themselves online. he went through quite a bit there, Andrew. What do you think?
Yeah, look. He's a friendly guy. We're looking forward to obviously getting him back for part 2, Brad, in a couple of weeks. If it works out all well, we can get him on because, I've got a lot of questions too that I want to check out the guy. I managed to sort of get one question to him because I'm intrigued, Simon and Brad, about the cultural differences. We often talk about these English guys transforming blues, black blues music, Simon, and then dishing it back to the Americans saying, here, this is our version of it. I kind of, and we've got Brad with his Australian aspect on his EP, I'm intrigued about hearing how a Brazilian guy, and he mentioned a little bit about it, how, he's from the northeast of Brazil and they kind of listen to this kind of music though anyway. So, yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, no, and a lovely guy and such an amazing guitar player. So if you don't know who he is, please go check him out on all the socials that Andrew has added to today's earlier show.
I haven't done that yet. I promise I will. I've done it. I've done it in the comments. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Well, at least you've done something. At least you've done something there, Andrew.
I'll do it. I'll do it while we're talking. But Brad is right. I promise I will do that by the evening. By the time the evening is out.
Yes, fantastic. In the evening.
Rock Professor.
Well, indeed. So, yes, we should say happy birthday to one of our best supporters and somebody who's been on this channel a few times, Hugh Caldwell. It's Hugh's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Hugh.
So happy birthday to you, Hugh. And he's got a song premiere later on today. So check that out if you're around. He's got something new out, new music. He's always producing something, Hugh. So yeah, happy birthday, Hugh. We hope you have a great day, mate.
Happy birthday.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do a banner for him. I'll do a banner so that he knows that we love him. So he knows that.
Yes. Yeah. He knows.
Yes. That's great.
Typically, he's not here. He's still in bed.
He probably, if he's a true Scotsman, from what I remember of my experience of working with a couple of Scots guys, he probably took 2 days to celebrate his birthday, pre-celebration birthday, and then it's the day of the birthday, Brad, so then you've got to celebrate your birthday, and then it's 3 days after where you're celebrating your birthday, so it's about a week.
And why not? Yes. Why not celebrate your birthday for a week? Why have a day when you can have all of it? Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. So anyway.
Have we got 10 people here yet for us to do a shout out? We don't have 10 people.
No, we don't. We've got 7, but only about 3 have all right. Oi. Bloody blown it. But, yes, I've lost the live chat now brilliantly.
Oh, okay. Rock Professor, do a shout out, and then Brad, we'll get Brad, and he can come and do the one at the end. Yeah, he's the backdoor man.
Yeah. So we've got Derek Clacton dropped by to say have a great show. I'll catch up with it later. His normal stuff. So thanks, Derek. Always much appreciated, mate. Ellen as well. Good morning, Ellen, and Holly as well. Holly Lewis. So this is our attendance this week. I've taken the register. There's obviously a flu epidemic or something going around, so nobody's here. Yeah. Or the mighty 10 years after aren't the draw they once were. It happens. They used to play at Woodstock, and now they're playing the Dog and Duck.
Are they still playing? Are they still performing?
No, Alvin Lee died a few years ago.
Yes, he died in Spain. About 2013, I think. Poor bugger. Well, he was still playing though, right up until right up until the operation. So you want to introduce the album, Rock Professor, and we'll kick it off?
Yes. I mean, I'll just do a quick introduction to 10 years after as well, because clearly we've not done them before, and I don't know how familiar people are with them, but they were formed in the early 60s, 62 as Ivan J and the J Cats, which is a very cool name, early 60s name, with Alvin Lee and bassist Leo Lyons. And they played around the local Nottingham Mansfield area, which is where they're from, which is the East Midlands for those of us living in the UK. And in 64, they got Chick Churchill to join the group as a keyboard player. And then their big break really was they played a show at the Marquee Cup supporting the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. And then they changed their name 66 to 10 years after in honor of Elvis Presley, who was 10 years after Elvis Presley had his big break in 56. So that's why they're named 10 years after. And Presley was one of Lee's idols. So so they, as I say, they booked by the soon-to-be Chrysalis agency, which secured a residency at the Marquee, and they played at the Winter Jazz Festival. And in 67, they released their first album, 10 years after. And 68, they released Live Undead, which has the first version of I'm Going Home on it, which is probably their most famous track, I would suggest, because it's the one included on the Woodstock soundtrack. So we're discussing Cricklewood Green, which is their fifth album, I think. Yes, fourth or fifth. And four studio and one live, so that's 5. If we're being clear. So recorded and released in 1970. The engineer on it was Andy Johns, and so was it Andy Johns' birthday this week? Andrew, was it Andy Johns' birthday? Yeah. So happy birthday to Andy Johns, engineer on this co-production and engineering on this album. So I mean, it's interesting because it has various sound effects and things like that, studio trickery, which is quite unusual for what you consider to be a pretty straightforward, British electric blues band. There's some odd things on this record that we'll get into, but certainly those studio trickery and sound effects add to it. So yeah. And I think that and Alvin Lee's signature lightning fast guitar licks.
Yeah.
So sort of I think it's often said that Alvin Lee was a sort of precursor to all the shred stuff of the 80s. I'm sure he wasn't the only one, but he did have a particularly fast style of playing that you can draw a line to the 80s shredders in. But yes, so for as I said, there's not much history about this one because it's a bit of a left field backwater job. But so side one, and we are doing sides. Yes, we're back to albums, kids. And I think we've got some photographs we'll show at the end of side one. So side one begins with a song called Sugar the Road, which is one of a pair of kind of basically blues rock songs. So it's got some weird electronic noises at the beginning, like or here's something for the British audience. There he is, Hugh Caldwell. Happy birthday, Hugh! Just appeared in the chat. He's just woken up from his week-long birthday celebrations. So yes, weird electronic noises in the front with these kind of whistles, which always reminds British audiences of a certain age of a children's program called The Clangers, but, which won't mean anything to anybody else. So I'm putting it in just so you're paying attention. Who are The Clangers? What's that? It's weird. It's weird kind of 70s British television, children's television. definitely drugs involved, is what I'm saying. But and then the drums fade in with cowbell. Always important to have cowbell. And then the guitar comes in with the bass, and it's a kind of bluesy organ. It has a groove like very much reminding me of CCR. Creedence Clearwater Revival has that kind of swampy groove to it. A solo, bluesy, passionate solo from Alvin Lee. Lots of fast playing. You can see where he is, see what he does very soon in this. I like the sound of it as well. I think it's got great guitar sound. I don't know what he's playing. Well, he's 335, his famous 335 Old Red. Yes, there it is. Thank you, Mr. Wallace, pointing to it. Yes. I don't have a 335, but it's and then a kind of second solo as well, two solos in 3 minutes 59. Can't be bad, can it? And a kind of funky organ at the end. So it's a very integrated sound. They're very good at integrating all the sounds together. The organ is kind of like the second guitar. Their own rhythm guitar, you've got an organ, so it's a different texture, a different view on that thing, but nevertheless just a full piece. And I gave this an 8 out of 10. Never a skip. It's a good opener. Brad, I think, is it you next, Brad? Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right. Just got my notes here. Let's have a look. So Sugar the Road I've put here. It's got that interesting intro with that it fades in with those sound effects going on, as Simon alluded to. It's very cool. Very innovative for 1970. This album come out, was it 1970?
Yeah, 1970. Yeah.
Very innovative sort of stuff going on there. Trickery, as you put it. Some great that riffing stuff with the double stops. That sounds really cool. Alvin Lee's, he's got that sort of power sort of thing going on, power blues thing going on already straight off the bat. Now it's got that driving rhythm. The rhythm section's got that groove. It's like a driving beat. I can't describe it, but it's pushing.
Yeah, it's like that CCR groove, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's pushing and it's catchy. The bluesy melody with some heartfelt organ playing underneath. Is it Chick Churchill?
Chick Churchill. Yep.
Yeah, some really good organ playing by him. And Rick Lee and Leo Lyons, they're a great rhythm section. They're holding it down very tight. That solo takes off around the 2-minute mark and launches over the top of that rhythm section, playing really sort of, they've got something quite special going on underneath the solo already. So Alvin Lee, he's got a lot of class with his playing. I'm hearing snippets of Clapton in his playing. I'm hearing snippets of Jimmy Page. I don't know if they were big influences to Alvin or not, but influences at least. The outro solo, I especially like that. There's some fantastic guitar playing throughout the song. The solo's fantastic. I gave it 9 out of 10, gents, and never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I've got to make a confession here. I don't know anything about this band, and I was reflecting upon it, and I'm going to discipline myself for not knowing more about this band when you consider how many times, Brad and Simon, I've seen Woodstock, and was always blown away by Alvin's performance 10 years after his performance. But I never followed through on it. So thank you, Simon, for bringing this album to my attention especially. I don't know anything about this album, so it was a absolute pleasure to go through this album and listen to it. So I'm a cherry boy on this one, so I'm looking forward to cherries and custard discussions, Brad and Simon. If you get what I'm talking about. The intro reminds me, Simon, of Charlie Watts. You've said CCR. I get it, but that 4/4 drum pattern, it's synonymous with those guys. So yeah, I'll let your CCR reference pass. Okay. You picked the album.
C-. Yes, thank
you.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I love the counterculture lyrics. It's pretty cool. The lyrics to the song. Got a cooking solo by Alvin Lee, and Alvin, But one thing, Brad and Simon, that struck me when I first listened to the song, and then 3 or 4 times after, Alvin's a freaking good singer. He's a great singer. He's his vocals. And I had to go and do some research because I wasn't sure who was the singer. Even though we saw Alvin on Woodstock, how some of these bands alternated, and you didn't know who was who. And I, as I said, I didn't know anything about the band, so I had to go and do some. Yes, it is Alvin, the guitar player. Okay, so I got that in my head. And freaked me out because he wrote all the songs. So the guy's a smart guy. I love the song. I've given it the same score as Brad. It's a 9 out of 10. It's got me hooked. I'm interested in what the rest of the album's got to do.
Yeah. Yes. It is. I mean, I don't know a huge amount. I before I did this, I consulted with my friend Gerard, who's I've mentioned quite a lot on here. So who's got billions of records and knows everything about everything. So I went to him and said, "What 10? We were talking about it last week. What 10 years after album should I do?" And he said, "Do Cricklewood Green first." So I'm taking his advice, and it sounded like pretty sound advice to me. So thanks, Gerard, for that. It's very interesting. I too. I had that. It's the I'm Going Home syndrome. They've got the one song that everyone knows, and I don't remember particularly listening to their albums when I was 72, 73. I think they should have had their heyday by then, but so I hadn't really come across them very much either, and I don't remember listening to this album at the time. But so it was a pleasure to go back and do a bit of archaeology and dig up something a bit different. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as a position. I'm all for this show being something about let's investigate something together and see if it's any good. And we've done Juicy Lucy, we've done Keith Hartley, and we've done similar, what I would call bands in a similar vein to this. And they've been really interesting and good albums to do. And I think this has been, this is a really interesting album and worth going back and checking out if you haven't.
Yeah.
So so anyway, the second track is Working on the Road, which is it's kind of propelled by the guitar and an organ riff, that starts. It's got the echo arpeggio guitar at the beginning. Again, something about effects that they like on the peripheral thing. So I like that. Again, that integrated organ, bass, drums, and guitar. It's a very organic unit, and they play together really well. Clearly done some jamming or done to work those things out. And I think that he is part of the band that, although Alvin is the star, in terms of the instrumentation, but actually as a 4-piece, they work really well together. It's got a really great sound. I think Andy Johns has done a great job of recording them and doing some things. It's got that kind of, I like also the fact that they have a good ear for a tune. It's a nice, really good melodic chorus on this song, which is about, being out on the road but wishing you were home kind of thing. It's it's a lot. You can tell that's a very band song, probably written whilst they were on the road. But yeah, the melodic chorus with the harmonies is really good, and I think and provides a really good hook into the song. And as I say, there's nothing, a bit of melodic pop in the middle is no bad thing. It's not. So and it's got some cool guitar riffs under the singing. Alvin Lee's playing, and you've got the solo at about 148, which is 2 guitars. 2 guitars playing in harmony. Clearly they're both Alvin, but yeah, that's really cool as well. Sort of early version of twin guitars, but without the twins playing. The organ makes an excellent foil instead of having a rhythm guitar. I think that Chick Churchill's laying that. It works really well in this band, and you've got a lot of singing and playing towards the end. The last 1.5 minutes are basically a sort of jam out, I think, and with lots of busy drumming. 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. I really like Zach. It's really good. Brad.
Wonderful. For me, sorry, my notes just disappeared. Here we go. Working on the road. That really nice chug guitar intro. I really enjoyed that. This song is like a trippy journey for me. It's got some wonderful drumming, bass playing, and the organ. Alvin sings great on this one. The stylings of the band, or this song in particular, kind of remind me of a band called Guess Who. I don't know if you guys sort of maybe know that.
Yeah.
The American Woman band. Yeah, they did American Woman
Yeah.
before that. So it's got that stylings for me about this band so far. And there's some wonderful guitar overdubbing throughout this song, like Simon alluded to. The double tracking guitars has a great feel. After I listened to this a few times this week, it really definitely intrigued me more each listen. And I was, I had to readjust my ranking for this song. I originally gave it 7.5 out of 10. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10. Never a skip.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, bro. Look, I think it's a great song. It's interesting. It's a great interpretation of a blues theme. Simon, there's something about these skinny English cats. We always talk about these skinny English cats and guitars. I think it's about time we talk about these skinny English cats and keyboards. You know, we've got Steve Winwood being a great keyboard player. Brad John Lord being a great keyboard player. You know, there's something about these English guys from this period of history that can just do marvellous things with the keyboards. And it's a shame that Chick Churchill isn't as well known as maybe he should be because of his contribution to the keyboards on this song, Simon. It's amazing. It's an incredible piece of work. And because of that, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Never a skip. Remarkable piece of music.
Yeah, I agree. It's that use of, I suppose Clapton did it in Blind Faith, really, didn't he, with Steve Wonder? That it's not a second guitar; it's an organ kind of thing. Yep. As a 4-piece. So I think there's certainly a parallel there. And that thing about having, the number of bands that have a guitar and a keyboard. Deep Purple. As we said, Blind Faith. I think it's one of those bastions of that English blues rock sound is you have a guitar and you also have an organ player as well. It's interesting sort of standardization. Anyway, so the third track is 50,000 Miles Beneath My Brain, which is I think it's kind of one of those kind of classic 10 years after jam type records. I think there's a lot of the jamming, certainly the second half. For me, the first half is Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd, if you look at references, and the second half is Sympathy for the Devil. And I think that that's what they originally put those two things together. And the first half, it's got light guitar playing a little riff with, again, the organ just holding a chord underneath it as the sort of rhythm guitar bit. And I think I did have a look, some fairly nonsensical words, I think, is what I'm going to say. I don't think they mean a huge amount looking back at them 50 odd years later. But I'm sure they meant something then. But, I like the fact, that he sings softly and they kind of gradually build up, with the drums and the bass. And as I say, that first half reminds me of Syd Barrett's Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn era Floyd. And then it's even got some harpsichords in it. And what track is not enhanced by having a harpsichord on it? But then it kind of gradually gets about a minute and a half. It gradually speeds up, gets more resistant, and then it goes into this literally EDA chords, 3 chords, which is literally Sympathy for the Devil. I don't know whether whether it's 1970. No, it would have been out a few years. So great it's great, great guitar sound, I'd say, for start with. You know, that 335 into must be a Marshall, probably. You know, it just sounds great. It's got that real kind of, just got that overdrive bit, you know, but not too much, and kind of that gives it a really classic English blues rock sound. There's great organ vamping under the king, you know, as Andrew, as you said, you know, that kind of that. The unsung hero is that is Chick, the organ player, and I think it's fantastic. That complements, you know, what is the second half. As I've said, the second half is basically a sort of jam, really, you know, with Alvin letting fly with everything he's got. And if you want to know what Alvin Lee's like as a player, this second half of this track is all about it. You know, it's got that solo, you know, it's about half 3:30, and then it turns into what I think is some kind of jam, really, and they're just jamming it out for the next 3 minutes. Loads of fast playing, really fast playing, whose triplets fast playing, and yeah, and then it's got the classic fade out and fade back in again, just to fool you. I get this a 9 out of 10, never a skip. It's one of the centerpieces of the record, and yeah, I really like it. It's really great. Brad.
Yeah. 50,000 miles beneath my brain. The title hurts my brain, but it's got a really nice guitar melody intro to this song, and the song is definitely, again, a bit of a journey. There's like that mellow, delicate sort of feel, and then it's like the light and shade thing that Zeppelin were doing, and things like that at that time. There's definitely moments of explosiveness, and around that 2-minute mark in the song, we hear some amazing sort of dynamics coming through. Is a good example. Some great singing from Alvin Lee, and then a wonderful guitar solo. Alvin Lee employs like a fuzz pedal. You can hear it kick in, and I've noticed his use of a fuzz pedal is somewhat like how you would use a tube screamer, just to give you a little bit more push with the amp and drive that amp a bit harder with that slight fuzz. And obviously, with his guitar being humbucking, it gives it a really nice little growl. It makes it sound a little bit, you know, Billy Gibbons, you know, he employs that to get that sort of sound as well. You know, so around that same time, ZZ Top were coming through. Maybe they all sort of listened to each other and copped from each other. I'm hearing throughout this song definite Rolling Stones sympathy for the devil. That's there. It's so obvious, but I think it's a great song and a really strong song on the album. I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip, gents. Andrew.
Yeah, I've been eagerly anticipating what you guys have to say about this song too, and I got to agree with just about everything that Brad and Simon has said, and Alan is saying as well. It's drenched in that psychedelic feel, has all the ingredients, doesn't it? You know, even though it's 1970, there's still remnants of that going right through in a lot of the music that we listen to from that period. And has all those ingredients for a wonderful trip. You know, you've got that soft textures of music and complex lyrics, as the rock professor said, that's open to interpretation, any interpretation, which is, you know, what rock music was about at that time, if you were under the influence of anything, which was considered, you know, a good thing to do. The Stones thing has been hammered home by our co-hosts, and I fully concur with what they have to say. I'm going to add one other little bit, though. There's a woman tone thing going on there with Alvin as well, too. So, you know, they're borrowing, these guys, from each other at this period in time, and never ceases to amaze me, Simon and Brad, that, you know, these bands are doing that. You know, it's what the popular music scene is doing, you know, so, you know, taking a little bit from this person, as Brad said, taking a bit from Zeppelin, taking a bit from Page, a bit from Clapton, and then coming out with something that you're supposed to do uniquely yourself, Alvin's doing that. You guys are stingy and mean. I've given this a 10 out of 10.
Hooray!
There you go. You make up
Hey,
for
Mark.
our stingy. You make up for our
Mark
stinginess.
Tanner. The stingy boys, yes.
Hey, Jay.
Morning, Jay. I caught the end of your show, Jay, just the very end. I can say that Caleb's Guitar Centre visit was very funny indeed. I'll tell you about it after. It's very good. So, but yeah, nice to see you, Mark, as well. I hope you're well, mate.
I'll have to go check that out later on, I think.
Hey, Mark.
I was just catching 5 minutes, literally the very end.
Been a long time, Mark. Thanks for hanging out with us, brother.
Yeah.
Busy boy, Mark. Also doing music as well. So check him out if you haven't. He does some fantastic stuff. That's Mark. So, end of side one. The last track on side one is called Year 3000 Blues. And if you haven't heard this album before, it comes as something of a surprise. One feels it's got a kind of synth burble at the beginning, and then it breaks into a country song, literally country licks, proper country bass, brushes on the drums. And is, to all intents and purposes, a straightforward country song with Alvin playing some fast acoustic country licks on his guitar under the singing, and there's a kind of acoustic sounding solo at 48 and thing. And I just because I thought it was quite music, but lest you thought it was a country song, the lyrics are completely kind of sort of sci-fi weird thing. It's like, now if I had been a scholar with computer working hard, then my molecular structure would not be on the grader's card. Classic country lyrics. Or not, as the case may be. They took me down the grading station and they classified me Z because of overpopulation. They told me I would soon be dead. So it's, I suppose it has the country bit in there, a bit. But yeah, the lyrics are quite amusing and not very country at all. Yes, it's an interesting little sort of bookend to side one. I gave it a 7 out of 10, but not a skip, as it's amusing, whimsical. Brad.
Yeah. Year 3000 Blues. The title got me. I kept thinking about, don't you, the Kiss song, 2000 Man. I kept thinking, is it going to be something like that, But as I put it on, I realized it's not. It's got like that real, country blues vibe that going on. There's some great playing throughout the song. They're really capturing that vibe, that country music vibe and stylings. Is specifically the way Alvin sings and lyrical content, not so much, but they're really trying to. I don't know whether it was a intentional thing that they were trying to sound like a little bit humorous or what. I'm not sure whether there was seriousness mixed into it or not. Simon and Andrew, I can't tell because I don't know the band well enough. But I thought to myself, in comparison to the rest of the tracks I'm talking about, it's got like a little bit of humor to it. So. Some great guitar playing. I'm hearing, I don't know if it's my ears deceiving me, but I'm hearing some national style guitar as well. Like a resonator style guitar in there. Song, I think the song in this position of the album is to fill up side one. I'll be honest with you, because it's a short song. It's a weird place to put this song on an album, I would say. I would think this would be more of a second last song or, something that's, just sort of rounding out the album a little bit more. But look, I'll be honest with you, the first few listens, I wanted to skip it. I didn't want to hear the entirety of the song. But, after the week of listening to this album, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Sometimes a skip, Simon and Andrew.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's an interesting song, and I know what they're doing. They're pinching off the Stones, Beggar's Banquet, Factory Girl, and Dear Doctor. you know, where the Stones are pulling it off and doing it really, really well with that country kind of feel. It's a good attempt by Alvin to do that, but also bear in mind too that these English cats were brought up on rockabilly, you know, so, you know, paying Brad maybe a homage back to those rockabilly roots, you know, could be what they're trying to do. Page did it, you know, so Alvin Lee's gonna do it. I've given it a 7.5 out of 10. Never a skip though. Adds a flavour to the album, and I know exactly, in my opinion anyway, exactly what this band was trying to do. So it gives them some kind of credibility with the song.
I also think that if you listen to albums from this era, variety is one of the key things. You know, variety on records like this, and you know that doing different things and just having, you know, different influences coming in. But I think you're right, Andrew. That's a really good call, isn't it? It's a kind of Rolling Stones type thing where you do a country song and then you do a rock. You know, you do Sympathy for the Devil and then you do a country rock thing to kind of, you know, to feed into it. But I think, you know, some of it's about that's what was happening at the time. People, you know, thought nothing of doing variety on albums and doing different things. So yeah, you're right, Hugh. It was a time when anything went.
All right, we'll show some pics. And Mark, glad that you're on the up and up, bro. Obviously, you know, we never want to hear anybody going through difficult or tough times. Obviously, you know, your thoughts, you know, your intentions will be covered by our thoughts and prayers, brother.
Yeah, 100%.
Nicely said. Yeah.
Okay, where are we? All right, so we've got a few pics.
Pickies. End of side one. Pickies.
What do we got here? So these pics today are kindly brought to you by this thing.
I can't see.
The Rock Professor. Okay, we got some pics here, so bear with me.
Got the mug.
We're up the top here.
That way.
Get rid of this guy. Where are they? There they are.
Get rid of him.
Is the album cover. Interesting album cover.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes. There's plenty in that, isn't there?
It's almost like it's, you know, the corner of the manager's office at the recording studio or something like that, or the record company.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's bizarre.
I couldn't find anything particularly about the cover, about information about it and stuff. It's fairly scant on the ground. So 10 years after information, I'm surprised. Actually, I thought there might be a bit more, but.
So that's Alvin, handsome fella. That's Pete Brown. So because we're dedicating this show, ladies and gentlemen, to Pete Brown, we thought we'd throw a pic of Pete Brown in there for you guys. 10 years after, from 1970. Notice the hair, Brad?
Yeah. There's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it, bro.
Yeah.
That's Alvin playing in Europe in 1970. So there's a couple of pics there from this period. There is the Rock Professor with his Gibson.
Put me. Yeah, with his 335 Old Red.
And that's the sleeve for Like a Man 10 years after. And we've got that track coming up, Simon.
Yeah, we have.
And there's
Wait for
another pic there of Alvin. And as the Rock Professor said, today's the birthday of Andy Johns, and Andy Johns is pivotal to a lot of the albums and a lot of the acts that this channel talks about. Van Halen in particular, Brad and Simon, but all these English guys. It's just, the list is endless, isn't it?
Yeah. He's done a lot of work.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yes. 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 Happy birthday. I was reading a Zeppelin book. I think it was the one done by Richard Cole, and I believe that I don't know what the story was. It's all off the top of my head. Jimmy Page was watching 10 years after, and he was in just couldn't get enough of Alvin Lee. He was just staring at him playing, and John Bonham wanted to go to the pub, and John Bonham apparently said, "Come on, Page, let's go." He goes, "No, I want to keep watching, keep watching." So John Bonham went and got a jug of orange juice and threw it at Alvin Lee. Oh God!
When Bonham wants a beer, Bonham wants a beer.
Unbelievable. The whole time listening to this album, I'm wondering how much damage was done to Alvin Lee's guitar.
Yeah, I that's exactly what happened.
Orange juice in the pickups. No, that's going to enhance the sound, isn't it?
with a few choice words in between, I'm sure.
A
sticky sound.
I abbreviated the story. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, enough of deviating from the
Excellent.
album.
John Bonham was a little bit like that, wasn't he? Apparently, he was. Yeah, he never short of telling you what he felt.
I love the story of listening to John Bonham was at a Little Richard gig, I think it was, and said the drummer couldn't play. So he pulled the drummer off. And
It's like Earl Palmer. It's like Earl Palmer, the drummer.
Grabbed the drummer, threw him off, jumped on, started playing, got to the end of the song, and Little Richard goes, "Now that's how you play drums."
Yeah. all after about half a dozen pints, though, eh?
Of course.
Oh dear, he was a character, wasn't he? I told you that story about the Led Zeppelin staying in a hotel, and they said to the road manager, "We don't want to be anywhere near Bonzo. We don't want rooms near him." And the next day, they went and complained to him. They could hear Bonzo's stereo, his massive stereo, and they said, "We told you we didn't want to be anywhere near Bonzo, and he's blue in stereo." And he went, "Well, you're not. You're 15 floors away." Could still hear him. Like Lovely Day by Bill Withers or something. I can't remember what the record was.
That was it.
No. Maybe we could do a show on all this one day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, next So-So show.
Oh, dear. Marvellous.
Anyway. We should get back to work.
Some pretty cool photographs there. You can get the vibe of what 10 years after are like, because
yeah,
you know, a very cool 4-piece huddle around, around the drums with that organist doing that was brilliant.
I must admit, I'm very much like Andrew. I haven't given 10 years after enough, time to have a good listen to. So I have heard albums, but they're not sort of like my choice of band to put on, if that makes sense. But I really enjoyed this. But anyway, we should get back on track because I know Mr. Andrew's got a hot date after the show.
That's not what he told us in the green room.
I'm just, we're going to try and
building it up. No, I agree. Yes, we've got
Rock Professor. We're going to try and live up to your standards of cocaine and hookers. I'm trying to make Andrew more rock.
Don't do that when I'm drinking. A normal night in for Simon. Yes, I sit there in my 3-piece suit because I'm British. Mounted. Oh dear. Anyway, on to side 2, and we begin with Me and My Baby, which in the vein of what I was talking about at the end of side 1 and Year 3000 Blues, this goes off on a completely different tangent in many ways. And it's a kind of basically a jazz number, isn't it? Basically a jazz swing number. It's got jazzy guitar and organ beginning, very much kind of like a Jimmy Smith kind of thing, and has a whole jazzy vibe going through it. And, it's got a jazz solo. It's actually got a rhythm guitar on it, as well. So Alvin Lee's obviously double tracked, the guitars and had a rhythm guitar. He's got a fantastic piano solo. We talk about Chick Churchill on side one, and this gives him a real chance to shine, and I think he does really shine. It's great, great solo, great swinging bass lines as well, and the drums hold it down really well. And then you've got a sort of 3 minutes of guitar solo, those typical Alvin Lee fast, fluid lines, and some pretty cool vibrato going on, and then a verse to end. That's just a complete tangent to really anything we've heard on side one, and a really interesting opener to side two. It doesn't really point you in what's going on, the rest of it, but it's a great song. I gave this 8.5 out of 10, and never a skip. It's really good.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, look, for me, I really enjoyed this song. It has like a classic sort of jazzy blues fusiony thing going on. Like you said, Simon, very blues, jazzy blues. The lead set is playing throughout the verses and everything like that. They have like a B.B. King feel to me. The guitar playing it through the verses and everything like that. Very B.B. King with the licks. But then there's that jazz influences there as well. Some great guitar playing over the top of that wonderful rhythm section. The song, it has you from the start. It's got the blues stylings that we love on this channel, but it's got the jazz feel and the jazz progression to color it, to give it a wonderful feel. That piano solo is epic. I loved that. I listened to this track over and over and over. One of the tracks I listened to a little bit more than the rest of the album. The drumming and the bass playing are on point. They're just tight. They're perfect for the song. They really have it down. The standout for me, obviously, on this track is the guitar playing from Alvin. I gave it 9.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Andrew.
Well, clearly, all three of us have realised and understood and clearly heard the jazz element to this song. It's unmistakable. It's a sophisticated blues song with that jazz feel, and again, it goes to show the ability of Alvin, not only as a guitar player, Brad, but as a writer, as a musician. And again, I can't help but sort of go back to the books that I read about the Beatles back when the Beatles were forming, that trad jazz scene being prevalent in the UK for a long time. So again, these British guys were around that, and Alvin would have heard that, Simon. He would have been, clearly, influenced by jazz for him to reflect that back in this song. Clear vocals again from Alvin. Wonderful set of vocals from him. You guys have nailed the guitar parts on the song. It's fantastic. And you can actually hear, when he's doing the solo, you can hear him flick his selector from the different pickups. It's remarkable. It's you can hear the click. And obviously the variation between the tones. Yeah. Brad, I love that. I love that you can hear that, because there's a lot of tracks where you can't quite hear that, or sometimes they might the transition between the two different tones might be ironed out or engineered or mixed differently, so it's not as obvious. But clearly on this, it is, and I like that. I've given this an 8.5 out of 10, never a skip. And as the Rock Professor said, what an interesting song to open up side two.
Yeah,
I think that's it's what Hugh said earlier. It's in 1970, those 70, it was the future was wide open, to quote Tom Petty. Anything went. Nobody said, well, really, this is a rock album. You can't be doing a country song. You can't be doing a whatever. You know, those templates for that variety had been set by people like the Rolling Stones, who, you know, had rock and acoustic and all sorts of things. You know, and I think other bands did exactly the same as that. You know, there are extraordinary kind of, you know, lesser known bands who are working in this period. The last song doesn't have to sound like the next one. You know, the next one can sound completely different. You can take a completely different set of influences, and you know, it's really, you know, I think that's really, you know, that's part of what was going on at this time. You know, this period of music making. You know, 71 is supposed to be the annus mirabilis of you know, album making and things. You know, and I think that it's, you know, it's really important that openness, that you know, the sort of the zeitgeist of the times, just, you know, feeling that you could do anything with rock music, you could go anywhere, you could do any styles, anything you liked, and, you know, everybody thought that was acceptable and things like that. Whereas I think, you know, these days things have gone into niches so much, don't they? That variety is not, you know, I was in the car yesterday. My daughter had some stuff on that she was listening to, you know, from a band, and basically once you heard 3 songs, that was it. You know, there were no other songs that sounded any different to that, which was, you know, kind of, you know, real. And I thought about that in contrast to this album, where you never quite knew what you were going to get next. So it's you know, lovely. I think that, you know, that people did that and people were open to it, and, you know, people bought albums that had all these things on and were very acceptable. You know, that was acceptable. And it's like Mark Tanner says, I haven't listened to 10 Years After for decades. I don't think any of us have, Mark. That's why I thought I'd go back and investigate it a bit, see what it looked like from a 2023 vision through the binoculars. So anyway, the second track is Love Like a Man. Now, Love Like a Man, apparently this was a UK hit. You know, this actually grazed the top 10. But I have no memory of it whatsoever. I didn't recognise it, and I didn't recognise it at all. Clearly, they had a sort of, you know, three minute version, not the 7.5 minute version that this is. So it's yeah, Hugh, I think that's probably true. Apparently, the A side you could play at 45, and the B side you can play at 33 on the single if you bought it, which is fantastic. Try and find that as a bit of fun. So this is the 7:29 minute version. So just in case you were panicking, kids, about you know, we might get a pop song, not so much. But in 1970, all these things, you know. So it starts off with the organ playing a single chord, and then you've got the guitar playing runs, you know, over the top. And you've got drums and bass in with the keyboards, and you've got a couple of verses and a couple of choruses, and it's got a great hook. You know, it's definitely, you know, I said earlier, you know, that they have an ear for a melody, you know, for a good chorus, and this is no exception. And about 2:20, you've got like a fuzz guitar. I think Frank, you can confirm this. You're better at these ears than me, you know. And then you're kind of picking up, aren't you? You're picking up as you get to the 3 minutes. Then you've got a guitar solo comes in over the top as they're kind of, you know, you've got the drums get really busy with continuous rolls around the kit, and then you start playing double time. So, you know, we're looking at that classic thing of the 1970 of dynamics, you know, building dynamics, you know, adding into stuff and building intensity, but with a great groove. You know, I think that you know, that what they had was they had a groove. Lots of these bands, you know, and then I think there's a wah-wah guitar, and, you know, and then it kind of drops down. You've got a bit of a quiet section with the wah-wah, and then it comes back in again, that kind of dynamic thing. And then you've got a different section towards the end, and a guitar solo to the fade out. So amazing song for me. I think this is a fantastic. As we say, a lot of these bands did it. That lesson in dynamics, building, swapping, taking it down, bringing it back up, choosing, you know, different effects to accentuate different parts of the song. I gave this a 10 out of 10. Never a skip. I think this is the standout track on this album. So yes, 10 out of 10 from me. But never a skip. Brad.
Yeah. Love Like a Man. I think you stole a lot of my notes here, but I'll quickly go over the rest of the stuff. I think that bluesy guitar intro over the top of that organ that's vamping is fantastic. I really enjoyed that. The drumming and bass playing very tight, and the drummers leading the song. Vocally, Alvin's kind of pushing himself a little bit more on this song and stretching himself a little bit. His vocal ability is, not like the rest of the songs. He's actually pushing a little bit more on this one. It sounds great. It's a catchy, bluesy feel. The breakdown around the 2 minutes 30 mark, I think it was, sounds great. The guitar solo launches around that 3 minute 10, and I'm hearing the Guess Who band again, and I'm hearing Clapton style leaks. I'm hearing snippets of Jimmy Page coming through in his playing. I love his use of the wah pedal, and I'm hearing that fuzz tone again, and I'm loving it. There's ways to use fuzz pedals, and this is what I think, is the best way to use it, like to push that amp and give. So you've got a driven tone, is what I'm saying, and then you push it a little bit with fuzz, and it really thickens the tone up and makes it sound gnarly. It's fantastic. It growls. The way this song takes off again at the 6 minute mark, it's epic. Again, I'm giving this one a 100 out of 10. It's a never a skip. It's the standout track on the album. It's the standout track on the album, and I think probably one of my favorite songs by 10 Years After. Andrew.
Awesome. Hey, Jazz. Thunder Flash. Look, I agree with you guys. Yeah. I think I was familiar with the song. I think I've heard the song, but it wasn't like carved, etched into my mind. I'm not going to repeat everything that you guys have said. I'm just going to say one thing. Go and listen to the guitar solo. The guitar solo on this song is exceptional. It's a fine piece of music, and I have to echo everybody else here in the chat as well, and my co-hosts with that score. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 too. Out of all the tracks on the album, besides it being fantastic musically and that awesome guitar solo, it is the one song that holds its head up high in the fact that it hasn't dated out of all the songs on this album. This song can fit bang smack in the middle of a modern blues rock set list on Spotify, Brad, and not be disjointed for somebody, and that's great. That's a great thing. Timeless, I think, is the word that we use to describe something like that can transcend 40 years or 30 years. I've given this a 10 out of 10 too. One of the standout tracks on the album.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
That's the thing. I think there's some general thumbs up in the chat as well. Morning, Jim. I hope you're good.
Hey, Jim.
Just under 50.
Sorry about Spurs. Sorry about Spurs. I watched that game too. What a pack of wankers.
Let's not do football.
No, okay.
Sorry, soccer.
No, it's football here.
Football here, definitely.
Yeah. No Americans on this. No Americans on this co-host. On these co-hosts.
No, it's anyway. So they're just running away from the football as fast as possible. So track 3 is Circles, which is an acoustic song. Basically, as an acoustic start, it has 2 acoustic guitars, one strummed and one picks. As I say, you've got some bass comes in. No drums to start with. I think it's interesting. And then you've got singing. You've got an organ as well. I think it's got a really great melody. to it. As I said, they've got they understand, that a really strong melody is a really important thing. It's not just about the jam over a 2-chord vamp and stuff like that. Having something really strong to hook things on is really cool. Nice little instrumental break. Again, I love this. I like the singing and the playing complementing each other, and it's kind of a lot of things. Like a lot of songs in this time, it's kind of spacey and airy, isn't it? They don't overfill it with things and things like that. They don't overthink it. Just a bit of bass, bit of organ, bit of acoustic guitar, sing. I gave this an 8 out of 10 and never a skip. It's a great contrast to the previous song as well. And
Yep.
I think it doesn't, it disproves my theory that the weakest track is the second last on the album. But yeah, 8 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Brad.
Okay, Circles. Some lovely lush acoustic tones, heartfelt vocals from Alvin Lee, catchy melody line as you alluded to there, Simon. Some very interesting lead guitar work through the song on the acoustic. The bass is popping through, sounds great. Interesting song choice, but it works well where it is. I'm hearing snippets of Led Zeppelin 3 a little bit here. I found the song intrigued me a little bit more every time I listened to it. And, again, I ranked this one a little bit lower than I'm going to rank it now. I ranked it 8 out of 10 and never a skip. But initially I ranked it 7 out of 10, but I gave it a little bit more because I found it just I wanted to listen to it again and again. So it was good. So for that reason, I'm ranking it 8. Andrew.
Yeah, I've got to agree with both you and the Rock Professor. It's a beautiful song, isn't it? The juxtaposition, the contrast between that and the previous song. Again, it's a theme that we love to hear on an album. These guys are great at it. They know exactly what they're doing. Brad's already mentioned the golden 2 words, Led Zeppelin. Again, being influential beyond. I think our understanding, even in 1970, they've been around, Brad, Simon, for a couple of years, and hugely influential. Not only with people listening to them, but other performers, evidently so with this track. I like the bass. I love the bass that's playing behind this, and it's that subtle bass. And Brad, you said it before with the acoustics of Led Zeppelin, that lovely bass behind the acoustic vocals, a John Paul Jones thing again. So, I love it. Beautiful song, never a skip, 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And as I say, it's that contrast thing, isn't it, that they bring as a kind of thing. So the final track is As the Sun Still Burns. Again, it's got that bass and organ playing that ascending line. I think, is a great riff, quite sort of Purple-esque. I go so far as to, hurl a bit of Deep Purple in there as an influence on this, possibly.
Yep.
But I think, and then the drums come in and then the guitar comes in as well, and they'll play the same thing, and it's it's really tight and really organized. Great soulful singing from Alvin Lee. I think that, as we've said, he is a really great singer, and I think that he is a great singer, and I think that's overlooked because of his whizzy guitar playing. But actually, he is a really good singer. I think there's a lot going on in here. There's a gradual build in volume. There's a solo at 140, which is pretty intense, and typical Alvin Lee playing. Then you've got like a strange kind of thunder type noise. I don't know if that's an electronic thing. It's got a hypnotic groove, and it's just kind of, then it fades out, and you've got just electronic noises, and you've got a guitar playing in one speaker and then the other, and then you've got some feedback as the bass comes in. And then you've got vocals, bass, and electronic sounds, basically, for the second half. And then 3:30, the band back in with the drums and the organ. Great singing, and then you've got a kind of phasing effect, and then a epic scream towards the end on the fade out. And I think just harking to the lyrics a minute, it's a kind of, again, it's a sort of sci-fi thing involving 1,000 cities in the night, each one waiting for the light. 10 million people plan their day as the sun still burns away. That's a kind of kind of thing about it. So I think that's really, I gave this a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. I think it's a really strong ending to the album. Really good. Yeah, fantastic. Brad.
Yeah. As the sun still burns away, it's got that lovely laid back feel with the organ and the guitar and the bass sort of unison playing together. I love that riff. The vocally, Alvin is singing very heartfelt, but his voice, again, he's stretching himself a little bit in parts, but for the most part, he's singing from the heart. You can tell some lovely playing from Alvin Lee again, guitar-wise, throughout the song. The song very much fits into that sort of era that came out, that 69, 70 musical vibe and energy that was happening around the time. We're hearing a lot of trippy effects. I'm going to say Pink Floydish vibes. I don't know whether they were influenced by the Pink Floyd at all, but there's definitely something going on there that's time frame and everything like that. I'm giving this song 8 out of 10. Simon and Andrew, never skip. Andrew.
Yeah, it's an interesting song, isn't it? It's almost like a lament to the psychedelic era, for them, or a homage, depending on how much of a fan you are. Either way, I'll agree with you. If you want to argue that it's a lament or a homage, okay, go for it. I think it's it's all open to interpretation, isn't it? It's a great solo, and I think it showcases the band playing together, as my co-hosts have already said. With the organ player, what's his name, Clint coming through.
Chick
coming through, and Alvin. And as Brad rightly said, where Alvin's pushing his vocals, go and check out the set that they did at Woodstock. And Alvin does a fine job singing live. So I always thought that interesting, that I didn't make that connection with other stuff that this band had done. But look. Interesting song. I've given it an 8 out of 10, Brad. It's never a skip. I think it's deserving in its category as the last song on the official album. And I suppose this is where we sort of should tell people that in the green room we were talking about the 2 other songs that came out on the re-release, and we were kind of having a conversation, weren't we, saying that those 2 songs, Simon, didn't add anything to the original album.
No. Interesting, that, isn't it? They chose. Are you telling me, Andrew, that they chose the strongest 8 songs and put them out?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah. Well, I think yes, amazing. That is that. Yes, that, and the 2 songs, as you say, that kind of penchant for releasing things later, we found some extra tracks to put on it. Yeah, but you didn't improve the album, did you? You should have just left it alone and released the 8 tracks, and we're fine.
From an archaeology and from a musicology point of view, it's great to get these extra tracks, because we'll always advocate that, won't we? But as far as enhancing the album, because some extra tracks, like for example the Rolling Stones, when they added some extra tracks on Exile for Main Street in 2010, in my opinion, added to the album. The tracks that they redid, and they actually don't feel disjointed from the whole concept of the album. On this particular album, though, these tracks do have a huge gulf between the original 8 tracks. in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. That. Yeah. And I mean, as I've said on here quite often, I think you're right, Andrew. From an archaeological point of view, that looking at those and is something something else. But actually, in terms of an album and an album flow and an album programming, and I'm a great advocate of actually, unless they're going to really enhance the album, something like that, then the original album is the thing, because somebody thought about it. And clearly Andy John's in the band. I don't know who put the programming together, but clearly they thought about it all together, and put out their strongest 8 songs, and and I would say that if you've only got 8 songs that are strong, put out the 8 songs. That's fine. In 1970, that was fine as an album, by the way. 8 songs. There wasn't this great sort of need to.
I just want to add one other little thing too that I was thinking about. So this album, Sticky Fingers, which came out in 1970, if I remember rightly. Keith Hartley, which is another album, a sleeper album that we've done on this channel, and Blues Helping is another one that we've done on this channel around the same time. If you listen to all those 3 or 4 albums, they all share the same kind of element. There's no disjointedness between those albums, Simon and Brad, in my opinion.
No. Yeah. It's they all have similar things, and they all have that kind of variety thing, don't they? Not much effects, but actually
all around the guitar. All built around the guitar.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's almost singer-songwriter stuff, isn't it? As a thing. Yeah, interesting. So anyway, that was Cricklewood Green as an album. As I said, there's only 8 tracks on it, so it wasn't very long, but I think interesting, and I'm pleased. I'd not heard it particularly before, so I was really pleased to go back and listen to it for the first time. Pretty much fresh, and I really enjoyed it as an album. I think it adds quite a lot. We're getting an idea, aren't we? By doing these albums, you get an idea about what was going on in the UK music scene for sure at that particular time. And you build up a much better picture of it. You can listen to the hits, that's fine. You get some idea, but these underlying albums that that we're talking about, as you said, with Keith Hartley and with Juicy Lucy, and those albums, you start to get an idea about what that whole scene was about. How people were building bands, how they were putting them together, what instrumentation was important, and then what they did with it.
And also one other point too, I think that we should talk about quickly through the course of my research this week. Woodstock being the fundamental thing that made Alvin and this band from being just another ordinary band to a huge band, from what I understand. The Woodstock film and the Woodstock soundtrack made this band. So, Brad, once again, you've got to be in the right place at the right time to take advantage of whatever the media is available to you as a performer. And we spoke a little bit about that today with Art, didn't we? About making the opportunities, taking those opportunities. And Alvin certainly took it. So go and watch Alvin play. If you haven't seen it, it's all over YouTube. Simon, he's definitely taken it by the horns.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think you're right. And it is, and we said it at the time, but it is worth saying that the difference between being in the Woodstock film and not being in it was quite large. And, yes. Keith Hartley, I'm talking to you, unfortunately, as a thing. And I think, clearly that, they didn't, their manager wouldn't do it. And, he wanted, was it £20,000 to appear? And then nobody would give them.
And we spoke about that when we ranked the album.
Yeah. They didn't appear. And who remembers Keith Hartley, really a footnote. Whereas 10 years after, certainly, several ranks up for that. And as Hugh says at the time, A, they were huge on the live circuit, and B, they were very popular in the States around that time as well. Going and
Hugh's
playing
saying that.
And that's because I know that's because of that's because of the Woodstock film and being in it as opposed to not being in it. So happenstance and
so here's my public display of the discipline for me not knowing anything more about 10 years. 1, 2, 3, Brad. I took my punishment publicly, bro.
He took it like a man.
I think this show's taking a worrying turn.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for picking this album for us. Every now and again, like we say, we get blown away. We do a lot of albums that we know, which is always great, and we do some albums, Simon and Brad, that we've got absolutely no idea about.
That's right.
No, that's right. Yeah. But they're part of that, that British blues, electric blues firmament that we're kind of investigating, and I think that it's really nice to go and investigate something you've not heard before. I think sometimes dig into it a bit, and I hope we managed to do it.
Yeah,
because it's fantastic fun.
Who's got the pick for next week?
Me.
Oh, have you got your pick, Brad? You want to share it with us, brother?
Do you want me to pick the one I sent you, Andrew? Are you happy with that one?
I think so. I think you've picked it, bro. I'm never not gonna say no. I'm always keen for it.
Fill the void for 2 seconds, guys. Fill the void. So I'll pull it up, and you guys can see it firsthand. Where is it? Oh my goodness! Oh,
I've lost it.
I had it already, and now it's
don't want to see those special Brad Cook picks.
Hey.
Yes. Yeah.
You gents, you guys, hang on. Why is it taking so long?
Wait a minute, it was him. I didn't say it was me.
Oh my goodness. Eric Clapton.
Yes, his first
cool.
album.
His first solo album.
First album. Okay, excellent. Yes, we're doing a run up to 24 Nights, are we? The release of.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool to get that one.
Yeah.
Oh, look! I think so too. When you consider that we've put this into context with the album that we did a couple of weeks ago with the Rainbow Gig,
yeah,
and this album, this was a pop album when it came out.
Yeah,
Simon, it was a pop album.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, that wasn't so much of a division then. I don't think, people release, rock acts release, singles, and we're in the charts as much as anything else. So great, excellent, yeah.
So what we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna do if you're gonna be doing some study and some homework on this album. We always try and do the original, and we certainly will be. So they've had a couple of re-releases, and there's one with Delaney's mix, and there's another one that they've done another mix, Eric Clapton's mix. So there's 3 mixes available. Whatever you do, don't listen to Delaney's mix, because that mix is completely different to anything that Brad and I and the Rock Professor will be ranking. It'll be obviously the first album, the first mix. Don't do Delaney.
Right, so the original mix.
But when we've done the album, go and listen to Delaney, and you'll get it's a different album.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we're doing the original mix.
Yeah.
Original mix, and I mean, look. It's a good album. I don't mind it, and I think it'll tie in well with the stuff we've been doing with Eric Clapton leading up to 24 Nights.
Fantastic. You guys are awesome.
Man, you're awesome.
Are we out of here?
Yeah, just do a quick shout out, Andrew.
Yes, please, brother.
Yeah, just want to say thanks for joining us, Derek Clacton, my mother, Ellen Toll, Hugh Caldwell, thanks for joining us, Holly Lewis, thanks for staying up late, Jay, 7/8, thanks for jumping in and saying hello. I'm going to check out your show. Apparently, there's something quite funny in it with Caleb. We've been private chatting a little bit about it, so I'm interested to see that. Mark Tanner, thanks for joining us, and Jim, Jazz Thunder 50, thank you. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Give us some thumbs ups, and please, if you're watching this back later and you're not subscribed, please do so. We'd much appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are we out of here?
We're out of here, guys. Yep. You can go on your hot date.
All right. All right.
Andrew's got a hot date.
All right. Be cool, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Fantastic. Take care, all. Have a good week. Stay